The heat is definitely coming out of here. Man, that feels hot. This is part 2 of the diesel heater tutorial video. The last video I shot, part 1, is just the unboxing process and showing some of the parts and components that came with the diesel heater. I had no issues putting this in. Minivans in general are pretty tight, so let me show you how I installed it. It's pretty simple. Again, this is a Toyota Sienna, so I'm not working with much space, but I got it in and it works great. So let me show you. Good morning, everybody. Last night I got this all installed, and there's a few changes that I did this morning. Basically, I just drilled a hole in the floor, put the plate on the bottom, put the exhaust, the intake, the fuel line down, out through, bolted those up. I think the intake is over here and the exhaust is over here, and then the fuel line goes up through the floor behind the battery, and it goes into the fuel pump right here. And this connector has to be facing forward. And then I just have this currently suspended from some wire, just because I didn't want it to be on the ground directly with this kink in the hose. So I suspended the tank just a little bit, got the fuel filter on there as well. This is the mount for the fuel pump. I took that off and just suspended it because online people are saying that these are really annoying, and that is correct. Last night in the van it was like, but it was up against this plastic wall, but it sounded like that. And now I'll show you what it sounds like hanging like that. I'm gonna be boxing all this in, so the battery will be separate compartment, and then this will be in its own separate compartment as well. And then the cord, this just plugs into the top of the heater. There's one on the fuel pump, and then one on the controller right here. And then that plugs into the fuse box right here. I got a 15 amp, but it also has a fuse here. And then here's the controller. I'll plug this in and show you guys how it runs. So as you can see, the glow plug is glowing, the fuel pump is pumping, I got battery, and the fan is running. This means it's priming. You'll hear it kick on here in a second, and there's already air blowing out of this. It's just not hot until this kicks on. You can feel this starting to also get a little warm. It's not actually that hot at all. I got plenty of room in here for the intake. And then this is the exit port going right up to this solid piece of wood in my van. This is the stow and go of a Toyota Sienna. And I'm waiting for that pump to kick on. It's so much quieter suspended like that. And man, this air is hot now. That is super hot. And it's blowing this way, or I can blow it underneath my bed. But yeah, that is super nice. So now I'm gonna shut this off, and I just press and hold power, and it shuts off. Kind of goes through a cooling cycle, but it's still blowing warm air, and you know, I trust it back here. First thing that I have to do is I cut the flooring up. I put the plate in. I'm gonna draw lines where all these holes are, and then I'm gonna drill that and cut it out with the side grinder. But yeah, now I'm gonna put a bunch of silicone heat resistant glue underneath this. But I have to mount it to the heater first. Like I mount this under the bottom of the heater with those bolts that are closer to the inside. And then on the 4 outside, I zip it down there. The mounting plate, I'm gonna get some nuts here. So we got the fuel line, exhaust line, and the intake line. Make sure the exhaust is furthest away from the fuel line. Now I'm gonna be using this fire block sealant on the floor and on the bottom of this panel. I actually made that a little bit bigger around there because I want to get a nice good seal on it. That's what it looks like. A little bit of overkill, but that's fine. I'd rather have more than not enough. And then here as well. Looks pretty good. Time to drop it in. There she is. Make sure there's plenty of room in the front. And then this is what it looks like underneath. It's actually surprisingly pretty good. Boom. Oh, that looks sick. In a tutorial myself to get a better idea on what to do. I gotta go get the fuel pump next. There you can see the fuel line, and I put it right in the gap underneath the van. So in my kit they threw this piece in, which really kind of threw me off. This is actually for a steel fuel tank, so we won't be using this, except we are going to be using the end of it. Pulled a hole in the tank, made sure it just barely slips in there. This is the piece, just barely slips in there. But it's actually going to be going this way, so it's like, how are you going to get this in here? They threw in this piece with my kit, which really kind of threw me off there for a minute, but I smashed a nail in there, and then I'm going to be putting the piece on it like that, and then I'm going to be snaking it down in there this way and poking it through, and then we put this rubber grommet on it, and then that bolt. I'll show you here in a minute. Close. You can see I put a little bit of silicone around it. Really, really tight, and I doubt we'll ever need this to be this done, but... So yeah, there you go. I gotta go into the fuel pump, fuel filter, to the bottom of the tank, and then the tank goes like that. Time to put some diesel in it. I kind of just wired it up for the most part. I'm gonna be seeing if this leaks. I'm probably only gonna fill it like 1/8 of the way, so I can figure out the rest of my wiring. But we just need diesel, and I'm gonna kind of just check over the lines and make sure nothing's leaking too bad before I put too much fuel in there. I think that's plenty for now. It's holding pretty well. No leaks. It's good. Alright, I gotta glue that gasket in. Alright, so this gasket kept coming out of this, so I just put a little silicone in there, place the gasket in, and then we're gonna screw it on. Alright, so here's the wiring harness. I believe that's gonna be going into the fuse box. Right, giving you an overview of everything. I have it plugged in. I have yet to put a fuse in. Goes to the controller, to the heater, and then over here you can see the fuel filter and the fuel pump, all tied together with the wire, which seems to be doing all right. The one with the electrical, that's going towards the heater. So now when I prime this, it should be going the right way. I'm gonna put in that fuse one more time and give it a nice prime, and we'll see if this turns on now. So I got the tank, the fuel line, fuel filter, goes up into the fuel pump. Alright, so the fuel pump just kicked on. The fuel is actually going the correct way now. The electrical connector is going towards the heater, and then this line goes down into the fuel filter and up and into the bottom of the fuel tank, hanging from cords, half full. This is my current setup right now, and And the fluid is going the right direction. I'm stoked. This should be kicking out heat in the next 15 minutes or so. So the heat is definitely coming out of here. Man, that feels hot. Definitely dry, nice heat too. Dude, it's way hotter than a car's heat too. But look at this, I can turn it pointing underneath of my bed or towards the fuse box. Man, that's nice. That's so hot. That's almost too hot. I think I can turn it down. Oh yeah, 31. Okay, so I can turn this way down. I was gonna say the plastic housing almost felt like it was gonna melt. Damn, that's hot. Alright, so as you can tell, it was a pretty easy install. I think you can do it too. It pumps out a ton of air, and there's things on tutorials that I watched that didn't show you some of the things that I had to learn while I was installing my diesel heater. It was pretty simple, just a hole in the floor, some steel screws and washers, and then basically the kit comes with everything, steel screws to zip up the exhaust in the intake, and then just kind of a simple framework of some electrical components that kind of keep the van alive. I do charge the back battery bank from a power isolator in the front. This charges it by just the alternator running my vehicle, and it switches on to the back battery. This allows me to have no solar, enough power to run the basic things that I have in my van. As far as the diesel heater goes, it does take quite a bit of power to heat up those glow plugs, but once it's running, it really doesn't take much power and it provides a ton of heat. I put my control panel up towards behind the back of my driver's seat, so when I'm driving I can use the key fob and turn it on while I'm driving, so that it will provide the alternator's power to start the heater. And then when I park, that time span will allow the glow plugs to glow, and it should be kicking out heat as soon as I park for the night. I haven't decided if I want to use this only when it's cold, or if it is cold for an extended period of time, just have it on low running. The MiniVan is a really closed, tight space, and this provides dry heat instead of putting moisture in the air like Mr. Buddy heaters. So the diesel heater doesn't have condensation in the windows. It's nice, dry, warm heat, and it does pump out a lot of heat. So far, I think the diesel heater was a great investment. The shift into fall actually kind of got me inspired to get a better source of heat in the van. I don't like Mr. Buddy heaters, and I'll probably never buy one again. This is definitely the option if you build out a van. The only downside to this is it's not portable. It's kind of stationary in the van. But for $125, I say just keep it in the van. It's a great investment for anything. Whether you got an ice shack, a van, a camper, this is the way to go. Anyways, I hope you guys found my video helpful. See you on the next one. Peace. Yo, this is so hot. It's crazy.